And welcome back to Cajun Coding. This is Saint Raz again. Now, if you missed the first episode, I'll let you know that that is just kind of a introduction to the channel and a backstory, a little general information there. If you want to get straight to learning how to code, then you're free to start with this episode itself here. And we're going to be starting out with the Java language, and we're going to be using a site called codingbat.com. A little bit about CodingBat. CodingBat was created by a gentleman, and where am I going here? I just saw it. Oh, here it is. Nick Perlante, who is a professor in the computer science department of a little school called Stanford. Maybe you've heard of it. Working on Computer Science 101, and he created CodingBat as a mechanism for people to find exercises in programming. And what we've got here is the list of exercises for the Java language. A lot of folks find it very helpful for repetition, doing the same exercise repeatedly, or even better, doing slightly different exercises. So they see different permutations for the applications of a concept or a keyword or a structure. Now these are just categories here. As you can see, if we click on one of these, the warm-up section, it has several exercises in there, and there are also some links down here for help. So in the upper corner here you'll see ID, email, password, and I've got those set up so that they'll save. This is the email that I use for the channel here, Erasmus Elmo Raz. And click login. So now I'm logged in as erasmuselmoraz@gmail.com. And this is our first exercise, Sleepin. Now as I go through, oops, and it saved my solution from a previous iteration. And that's one of the reasons you want to create an account, so you can save those solutions. If you just want to do some exercises, and you're free to do some exercises without signing in, but as soon as you close the browser, those solutions will be lost, which is fine if you're just trying to knock the rust off of your programming, or just practicing a little bit. But if you want to save the solutions permanently, then you would create an account and sign in. Now as we go through these, you of course are going to see a solution, my solution, obviously not the only one there for most of the exercises. This does bring up a question. People are wondering, well, is this cheating? Well, from an ethical standpoint, no, it's not cheating in terms of you're getting a grade or you're getting remuneration or anything like that from the activity. So it's not cheating in that sense. The question really is, are you cheating yourself? And that's a valid question, and it deserves some thought. But ultimately, the only person who can answer that is the student himself or herself. Okay, the only thing you can cheat is you can cheat yourself out of the opportunity to learn. But I think there's two ways to do that. The first way is obvious. If you don't attempt to understand the material, you don't make an honest effort to come up with a solution, not allowing yourself to work through that, going straight to Google, going straight to this channel, finding the solution there with minimal effort on your part to actually work through it yourself. Yes, you're cheating yourself. You're robbing yourself of the opportunity to learn how the logic and the language work in that respect. Okay, which kind of makes this channel a little bit unusual. Why do I even have this if that is the case? And the reason I created the channel, and the reason I'm going to be working through these exercises, is because there is an opposite extreme. And the opposite extreme is that you never seek out help. You never look for that. Okay, if you get stuck, You just keep pounding away at the same problem without seeking additional resources to come to a resolution. If you're stubborn in that way and you don't look for the solution after a certain period of time, then you're still robbing yourself of the opportunity to learn. And my attitude has always been, make a good faith effort. Really try to work out the solution. Try a few different things, a few different approaches. Actually try. But do not get stuck on one of these problems for hours and hours or days because you're too stubborn to look up the solution. My recommendation would be, if you get stuck on one of these problems, work on it. If you can't work out a solution, try to find a solution. Look one up. Cheat, as it were. But study it. Don't just cut and paste it into the area here and check it off of the list. It'll show that it was solved on here, that little check mark. That little green check mark, they do turn green when you have a valid solution. That green check mark is not what you're after. What you're after is the knowledge necessary to solve the exercises. That's what you're after. And you are cheating yourself just as much by refusing to look for help as you are by just Googling an answer and cutting and pasting it into that exercise. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and get started. And the first exercise is called Sleepin. This is the Warmup1 section. The parameter weekday is true if it is a weekday, and the parameter vacation is true if we're on vacation. We sleep in if it is not a weekday or we're on vacation. Return true if we sleep in. And what's not stated is that we don't sleep in if it is a weekday and we're not on vacation. And of course this auto-filled this. Sorry about that, guys, because this was a saved actually that wasn't a saved solution, because you'll see that it did not have the green check mark. I had an abortive attempt at this video, but it did save the code there. So what we have is the function here. Now the stub of the function here, the declaration here, is provided by coding bat. The function itself starts with this opening brace, the curly brace, and closes here. And this section here between them is the part of the code that we're actually going to write. Now, as you get each of these exercises, you're going to want to look at what's here. You're going to want to definitely read the description of the problem and look at this. This is usually public here. Now, this is the return type. It says Boolean. Boolean means that it's going to be either a value of true or false. That's the return type of the function. So when all our code here is written, it's going to be returning true or false. The name of the function is here. This is Sleepin, which is also, notice the name of the exercise. That's pretty much standard there for coding bat. Now you see an open parentheses and a closed parentheses here. Now these two, and there are two of them here, you notice they're separated by a comma. There are two values that are going to be passed in to the variable. And the types of values that are passed in are also Booleans. So the weekday, and this is the name here. Okay, so we've got type and name. The Boolean value weekday is passed in as an input to this function, and the Boolean vacation is also passed in. Okay. Now we're going to take those in. Now it says here parameter weekday is true, parameter vacation is true. We're on vacation. We sleep in if it is not a weekday or we're on vacation. Okay, so what we have is a conditional, and what we're going to do, we're going to indent a little bit here so it makes the code easier to read. We're going to have a conditional statement, an if, and then if is followed by the parentheses, and we're going to put a statement in there that resolves as either true or false. So if we sleep in if it is not a weekday. Okay, so if weekday equals false. Okay, that's what we're looking for. If weekday equals false, so it is not a weekday, then we would sleep in. Pardon me. Okay. Now the if statement there, our conditional statement is inside the parentheses here. If that statement resolves to true, then we execute the code inside these curly braces. So we have another set of curly braces. So if it is not a weekday, if weekday equals false, then we return true. And most statements are ended in a semicolon, so be sure you got the semicolon there. And if the opposite is true, then we can use the else. And if is usually followed by an else. Okay, so we're going to return false, which would be the opposite. Remember the semicolon? Now I'm going to tell you there's another condition here, so we're going to have some, this should compile fine, but everything's not going to be correct. But we're going to go ahead and execute, hit go, and like I said, we do have a failed test, but we didn't get any errors, so the program actually ran. So that's fine. So if weekday equals false, weekday is false, then we return true. So return true. This is our expected. So you see we're putting in false for weekday, false for vacation. We expect it to come back true, and that's exactly what happened there. Okay, and then weekday is true, so we do not sleep in, it returns false. Weekday is false, it comes back true. Now this is our failed test here. Okay, now remember there was two values that were passed in. So it says if weekday is true, let me see, if we sleep in if it is not a weekday, weekday is false, we sleep in, or if we're on vacation. Okay, so we've got another condition. So we return true, we do sleep in if weekday is false or if we're on vacation. So we have vacation equals true. Okay, so if either of those are true, and what we're going to use here is an operator we call the OR operator, and that consists of two pipes. If you have trouble finding that on your keyboard, these are not L's or 1's. This is a character called a pipe, and on most keyboards that is going to be right above the enter key. It is a shift option, so hold down shift and hit that key right above the enter key, and that will be your pipe. The double pipe as an OR operator is common through many programming languages. So if you're starting with Java, then expect to see that in other languages as well. And if you already have some experience in another programming language, then this is going to be a review for you. Of course, this whole lesson probably seems rather slow if that's the case. If we hit go, everything is correct. If it is not the weekend, or if it is a vacation, now this entire thing comes back. If that is true, then it runs this line of code. Okay, if the contents of this conditional statement comes back as false, everything between this curly brace here and this curly brace here is ignored. We see an else statement. That means that if the previous statement, that block code of block, if that was not executed, then the else is going to mean that this code block, which is just one statement, is executed and it returns false. Okay, so this is our solution. Now there's a lot of different ways to do these, and this is actually not the most efficient way to do this, and I can show you a better way to do this, and we can do that without the if else statement. What we can do is we can return I think I might have gotten this backwards. No, I think I got that right. Yes, that is correct. Okay. See, what we're doing is we're returning. If you find yourself writing a block of code, if some conditional that you're resolving, if it is true, then return true. Otherwise, you return false. Then what you can do is you can get rid of the if-else completely and simply return. So what we're doing with this line of code here is we're returning, and I'm going to put it in parentheses here, if you just look at this, return this statement, weekday equals false. If weekday, right here, passed into this code, you notice this is inside the curly braces. If weekday equals false, if the statement weekday equals false is true, because the value passed in as weekday is false, then this statement weekday equals false is true. And then there's another statement here, and it is correct to put these in parentheses. This is just as valid. The code is just as valid. It's not necessary in this case, but you can put them in parentheses. If vacation is true, as in the second test, vacation is true, vacation equals true, then the statement vacation equals true is true, and it's returned. So the entire solution is just the one line: return weekday equals false or vacation equals true. And of course, this is an inclusive or, so if either of those is true, then the whole statement together is true as well. So that's it. And if you click on show solution, now all coding bad exercises don't come with a solution. This one does. Now you see if weekday or vacation. Now this is another way. I didn't actually do it this way. Now notice that because we're returning a Boolean value and we're getting Boolean values passed in, if you look at this if statement here, if, and we've got this statement, but let's just look at this one for now. If we ignore this part, it says if vacation, return true. Okay. Now if we say just if vacation, now if vacation is true, then that means that vacation alone is true. So we don't even have to put, like for right here, vacation equals true. We can just delete that part and put vacation, and it'll run just fine. See? Now here's part right here, if exclamation point weekday. Okay. We do sleep in. We are supposed to return a true if we're on vacation. Okay. But we're also supposed to return true. We do sleep in if it's not a weekday. Okay. So that's what this character means, the exclamation point. And sometimes people say that as not, rather than spelling out the words. Just they call it not. Programmers sometimes call that the bang operator. So they would read this if they're reading it out loud. If, open parentheses, bang, weekday or vacation, close parentheses. But logically, that operator means not. So if you're looking at Boolean values, that is going to reverse the Boolean value. So if weekday is false, then bang weekday is going to be true. So if bang true, which is false, if it's false, if bang weekday, if weekday is false, then bang weekday will be true. So if this statement is true or this statement is true, then we return true. And another way we can do that also is, since we're dealing with Booleans here, what we can do is get rid of the if entirely and state it like this, and all the tests pass. Now if it seems like we're moving kind of at a snail's pace here, that's because we're just introducing Boolean values and the if-else blocks, if-else statements. We're also discussing some of the structure of functions and enclosures like braces and parentheses in Java. So things will speed up a little bit for our next lesson, and I may save that for next time. Hope to hear from you guys again. Subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time.